Imata me imata he umana imata Hi, and welcome to Harmonizing Journey to Realignment Seminar and Sessions. I am Katie Oshiwa Nitah, the owner, founder, and facilitator of HJR Seminars LLC, the HJR Navigator, helping others to connect with their multidimensional clan family. HJR was founded upon a combination of Chelonic science of first creation mechanics, of our organic light body structure, and Tantriya Hura spirit body mechanics, brought through by Ana Dean Arrayas of Arrayas Productions. I am in no way affiliated with that organization. I work closely with my personal guardian team of the Alhambra Magistracies of the Christ Code of First Creation Mechanics, the in-breath and out-breath of perpetual renewal of the crystal spiral. We also work with the Guardian Alliance team of the Intergalactic Association of Free Worlds to bring back the organic crystal spiral mechanics to this current net Earth reality to create Urea Earth, aka New Earth. So this is currently my version of the crystal caverns in Urea Earth. This would be when she's talking about the crystal bridge, integral bridge, 7 bridges flows. This is what I see it as. This is the crystal caverns. So this is what I kind of see in my mind when I visualize the crystal caverns as a little pod, a little version of a pod space. I see the rainbow waters that she refers to in the KD. This is information from the KDDL material, particularly KDDL 3 of Arrayas Productions. And this is what I kind of so far see when I go to Urea Earth. So somehow you come in and you get your pod space or Mashayahana prayer salon from Sanctuary Island, which we do that in our voyage, in our journey. And we bring it into the crystal caverns, and everybody probably has their own unique place that they put it. And then they connect in with what I call the cloak of the eternal one energy, and we can talk more about that in a bit. And then as we work, we eventually connect into the integral bridge. This I call the Ureta zone. The whole place was created initially with the Ureta fields, and then that materialized into bringing in the crystal caverns. Then we worked with the integral bridge, and then we initially started creating, even before the crystal caverns opened, something called the Ureta zone is what I was getting intuitively and working with a few different people. Actually, I was working with initially with Christopher Comstock's group, the Skypod group, and we were doing HJR Sessions. And this is an interesting structure in that it basically interfaces with Phantom Earth. It interfaces with, we have the dueling spirals, right? So we have the crystal spiral and the Fibonacci spiral. There was this zone basically interfaced, is what we found working with it, interfaced between the two, and was actually allowing one to retrieve what's lost in one would call the 8th sphere of Phantom Earth back into the crystal spiral. And then through this structure, it also interfaces with Urea Earth itself, that's starting to become more evolved. So that's kind of that bit. There's all kinds of caverns all over well, this doesn't show it on this side, but
there's many different places that you can go when this was mainly the Ureta field that she had been referencing, and I think it was I can't remember if Katie Dale 2 talked about it, but definitely Katie Dale 3. And we were just sort of activating it. And she had this beautiful artwork as well, kind of connecting into that energy of that, future place. And it just worked with, I guess there were certain key people that were part of, I was working with as clients as well as with in Chris's group. And we just basically activated this Ureta field. And it felt originally like a dome, circular dome shaped place. And then we had the central pillar, and we just started working with the energies, and it just started building and building. And then over time, and I also had a seminar class that I was doing, and it evolved even more with that, where then eventually we were working with that the integral bridge frequency, and it was amazing. It just sort of popped up and created this space, and we were getting a transplanial interface point where, because we knew we kept getting over and over again, we need the importance of healing the dueling spirals. And we knew that a lot of our self was in the Fibonacci fallen spiral and not that much of us in the crystal spiral, right?
It's yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, they're going to separate. Well, then you're going to separate a bulk of your stuff off into the fallen network. So we just started working with salvaging. That's a salvage mission. And I think it's still working. And I don't obviously know how much, people that are not doing what I do, but somehow are still doing Aisha's work and doing these techniques. I'm sure they're probably interfacing with this just with different terminology because it feels very visceral to me. And also, it was interesting. Oh, I guess I answered that question, but another thing that's coming to my mind to go ahead and say is another thing that when we started connecting into Urea Earth itself, um, it's just this beautiful grassy area. And there's these three pyramidal structures. You can see the top of one of them and then the other. One of them actually has what we call Ureta, not Ureta, it'll come out of my mouth. Urea library, which I think is also the Adashi temples and has to do with all that she talks about. And so actually at this point now, once you make it up into Urea Earth, you actually can go into this temple and connect with, and initially we didn't have the connection with the temple. We were just connecting with the earth, it's the ground itself. But over time, we have it to where, and at the time we were just calling it our urea double is what were thinking of it. We'd kind of go, well, sort of feels like an Alhambra, urea, double, Nomi, self. Is what we kept getting. It was sort of like we could see this, part of ourselves and we were like interfacing with it, working with it. And this was before she brought in the new councils called the Nomia Yusathre Urea Alhambra. We were like kind of playing around that. We were kind of bringing it in. And it's like, okay, cool. So I'm like, all right. So now as we've been working with the temple area, and we've, when you go into the temple space, um, it's also kind of feels like it's sort of another circular area. And there's like a bunch of seats on the outside of it. And then the center of it is this, what I call fire pit. And I actually was seeing it when I do my Waking in Alania books. I talk about those a lot as well. It's what I just see in my mind. And in the center of it, it's not a fire pit. It's like fire on Earth. It's a urea Earth type flame, the faux flame she references in the KDDL material. So you can kind of go into the center of it and just, you know, clear, cleanse, whatever. But in that flame as well, there's a connection when you first go into it and you're first creating. Everybody seems to be creating their own little library temple space. So when you connect with your seed self, your Urea seed self is kind of another way of saying it, of your double, that as far as I can tell, it's a part of self that either when things keep going the way they're going, we will physically be able to merge into this being, or when we transition, we can merge into become this being on Urea Earth is what we're getting. Um, and I'm sure it connects with everything that she's doing with the KDDL because all of this is KDDL material. It's just me working with it and people that I work with. So through that, connecting to your own library, connecting to your basically your Nomi Urea self, and then the use of Thray, because I now became mindful of them and been working with them, so we consciously make contact. There's a way to then connect into what I call the use of Thray zone. So it's almost like another branching out, and that's been very fascinating as far as doing the grid work, being a grid keeper and doing healing work on the planet, utilizing these frequencies on the planet. But that's kind of a higher level thing that I'm involved with on a more personal level. But connecting into the crystal bridgeway or the rainbow bridge frequency in that, kind of bringing yourself into that. And then you start out at density 1 and you just breathe density 1 into your body and you feel that experience of the, molecular structure, elemental, and then your mental. And then you just sort of breathe in and kind of expand out a little bit more, and then you can feel your density 2. So that would be the Terra, right? And so you can feel the different, the D4, D5, and D6 of that. And what, and just kind of relaxing into it. And the more you're running these newer frequencies, it clears out the distortions that are in it. And you may like have memories that might come up and traumas, it depends, what's going on where you're at with that level. Because we have to recreate all those levels. We cannot dissect ourselves from them. So it's almost like doing this, it's like recreating your Terra self, which in a sense, whatever your personal planetary morphinogenic field structure is, right? Because we're seeded into a planet, right? Into the core, and then we birth out, and then we create our holographic reality or our lone harmonic that she many times refers to. So this is the true mechanics of how you create your reality. So with that personal planetary morphinogenic field structure, it also creates your physical body, it creates your house, it creates all the different realities that you have, even people you don't know but are somehow interfaced with because they're part of the planetary structure. There's the biofeed interface system, right, in the core, Earth's core, back to you. So you're interfaced with everybody else. It's kind of like so you're able to interface with their personal planetary morphogenic field structures. So it's kind of like, as an just sort of a little example, is you look at a chair. Everybody will be looking at this chair, but everybody will see that chair in their own way. Even though it's still the same chair, everybody has their own angle that they're looking at it, or view, or perception, or whatever. And this goes with everything. So the more that you can connect into that reality and work out the reversals that Aisha talks about, particularly in the Kathara work, initially she talked a lot about it, and she's talked about it in other workshops as well. And Steiner actually kind of interestingly sort of has his way of talking about it too, looking at the esoterica training. We have the reflection thing where like the mental body kind of reflects things up in front of us, right? So of our reality. So that's the personal planetary magnetic field structure that gets reflected in front of us. The and that's actually really the past, right? Because the eternal internal pillar within your being is your spirit body, which is no time. So the more you can connect and heal that, you can then have what is reflected back out, less reflected back out in distortions and more into your own control. So that's a lot of what this wonderful new energy is working with. But kind of back to the exercise. So you can kind of then the next level you would be like expanding out to density 3, experiencing all those levels, whatever healing work to be doing with that and so forth, and keep doing that. And it's kind of fascinating experiencing the primal light and sound field and stuff like that, just kind of working and playing with the mechanics, but playing with it, what I feel is in a safe way within the Rainbow Bridge pillar energy, because that energy is what made all of it to begin with. So you're really getting back into the core and keeping your psyche kind of from going nuts because working with all these different levels of self and different things going on, it's the mental body is like, what the hell's going on? So this is almost like this is a safe, nice way of sort of integrating all the energies. One of the
Okay.
steps that we go into when we're doing the harmonizing journey is I talk about the Nomi Earth Core seed field going into the core of the uh, the Nomi gene is an ancient genetic configuration carried in small percentage through all human race line. This genetic configuration originated on Earth about 800,000 years ago and was entered in the angelic human seeding 3 gene lines. The final seeding 3, our current contemporary lineage, was seeded 800,000 years ago with um, yeah, with direct inclusion of the original, what's called Nomi ephemeral human core template from 950 billion years ago, the Queenus Andromeda M31, which is where our time matrix that we're in originated from. Both seeding 1 and seeding 2 were destroyed. Seeding 1 of the Earth angelic human Ternesium 2 seeded 25 million years ago was destroyed 550 million years ago in the electric wars, Earth wars. And seeding 2 seeded 3,700,000 years ago, destroyed 848,800 years ago. And that's something called the Thousand Years' War. During seeding 3, the Nomi ephemeral human gene line was created to carry the seed 3 angelic human compound cloister coding, the coding of all 5 angelic human cloister races of seeding 3 combined. It was also imbued with the Pancolae array of some D planes coding, the K plus 8 factor, and the Nomia Ephia Araya Alhambra Ephim Eternal Life gene line, the Sun 8 D planes of the failsafe coding. The compound genetic coding carried by the seeding 3 Nomi ephemeral angelic cloister human carries the coding of the 5 angelic human cloisters of seeding 3, each of which carried a portion of the 7 angelic human root race genetic coding. Thus, the earthly genetic base of the Nomi contains all DNA coding pertaining to the seeding 3, 12 tribes, 5 cloister races, and 7 root races. Additionally, the Nomi lineage carries the K plus 8 ephemeral code, the failsafe crystal
Services
bridge code.
available are HJR Private Sessions, HJR Seminars Foundational Series, and Waking in Alania Sci-Fi Book Series. Thank you for watching and hope to see you soon, but please take your time reviewing my website to make sure that HJR is right for you. And please subscribe to our Harmonizing Journey blog. Bye. Himata Umi